All right, good evening, everyone. Let's start with child psychology, module 2, child development, research, and theories. That's the module we will be looking at. So let's dig deeper into that quickly and what we will be discussing. So child psychology, module 2, child development, research and theories. Let's look at what are our objectives for this module are. We'll be looking at theories that are used in child development research. We'll also be looking at understanding how each theory is developed and who are the pioneers behind. And we'll also be looking at some of the similarity and difference between important theories, and we'll try to understand which theories practically govern modern practices in child development. And we'll also wanted to see how these theories apply in practice. So that's something you can look at it and see. Perhaps you like something that you find more fascinating to work with if you're working with children. Child development is not ruled by a single theory, but instead by several different theories that evolved over time. Having a theory is important for research in child development, because the theories are a way for those who work or educate themselves in the area to talk systematically about certain concept. In this module, what we will be doing, we'll be learning about the most prominent theories used in child development, starting with the maturation theory, behavior theory, psychological and emotional theory. We'll be looking at bioecological system theory and cognitive development theory. So these are the theories we'll be looking at in this module. Let's look at the maturation theory, otherwise known as physical development. Is one of the oldest theories of child development research, and it was first developed in 1925. The man who's responsible of developing this, known as Arnold Gesell, developed the maturation theory. He's the one who created it in 1925. The theory practically talks about the age maturation. He says that the children mature as they age physically. This theory dealt with one of the most complex issue in human development in general, which is nature versus nurture. And we will explore this concept further. Over 50 years, this concept, Gesell performed many studies at the Yale Clinic of Development and determined that the most critical factor in a child's development is when has to do with their genes. That's what he says, that the development, he believes, that determined that has to do a critical factor that has to do with the development of their genes. According to his theory, development takes place throughout the maturation of the child's nervous system. As a child nervous system, brain, spinal cord, nerve fibers, etc., develops, their minds to develop as well. And thus the individual's genetic timetable play the important and significant role in the rate of child's maturation. That's the Gesell's maturation theory. One of the example is children learn to sit up and stand on their own, and they stand free, they walk, and then they run in a specific order. This order is congruent with the development of the child's nervous system. However, not every child learns to perform these tasks at the same age. Rather, normal development is placed in an age range, like 3 to 6 months of age. Thus, development rates can vary between individual children. So, again, maturation theory developed in 1925, one of the oldest theories in the child development research, stating that the children mature as they develop physically. Next one, we're looking at B.F. Skinner and John Watson. They are known to be the behaviorist theorists, and they differ from the maturation theory because it focuses less on nature, like genes, and more on nature. And more on nurture, which is the environment. So the behaviorist theory says that when the baby is born, their mind is like a blank slate. As they encounter new things and experiences within their environment, they develop their personalities and abilities to reflect the particular things they encounter. The adults that are present in their children's life features heavily in this theory. The research presented here suggested that the adults can shape the way the child learns and experiences the world around through reinforcement strategies. The action or belief that adults reinforces positively are those that child is likely to develop into habits or personality traits. So positive reinforcement features heavily in this theory, and it may include strategies and techniques like modeling, praising a child, on rewarding on behalf of the adults to encourage the direction of the child's development in the way they desire. So basically, B.F. Skinner and John Watson are saying that you can develop the child into whatever you desire based on modeling, praising, and putting some, encouraging the child and giving the atmosphere and the environment that they needed. So that's the behavior theory by B.F. Skinner and the John Watson. Now we're moving into psychological and emotional theory, which is psychological and emotional theory is associated with three primary theorists. Let's look at each one of them individually. Erik Erikson is one of the most famous theorists, though he based most of his work on Freud's work, Sigmund Freud's work. The theory almost entirely focuses on personality formation and 8 ages that every person goes through between their birth and adulthood. These ages are required for people to become self-fulfilled. According to Erik Erikson, every age is constant struggle between positive and negative emotional states. How individuals leave each stage depend on the environment they live in, and how individual is cared for, or what experiences they are exposed to. So that's what Erik Erikson is saying based on Freud's work. Then you have John Bowlby's work, is another important theorist in this area of child development. He was concerned with the relationship that developed between child and their parents. And his particular concern was the attachment. Bowlby believed that the attachment develops over 4 phases of an individual's life. The attachment, that attachment develops over time, and that stems from caregiving activities that both parents and their children take part in. Taking the work forward by Mary Ainsworth, who is student of John Bowlby's, and what she says, she created an experiment designed to test the attachment between moms and children. The test determines whether an infant is attached either securely or insecurely, or whether they avoid their parents. So what she did is she had done a fine study on children who she observed at the age of really young age, as young as like 14 months. And in those experiment and studies, she notices that that the children who are securely attached, they immediately miss their parents. And then she sees children who are insecurely attached, and some of them avoid their parents. So there are significant. It's a really an amazing study. If you ever wanted to watch that, you can search Mary Ainsworth attachment experiment, and you'll see that. I think as old as you can go, I think 12 years ago they had provided that case study. So that's her work. Then you have bioecological system theory, designed by Yuri Bronfenbrenner, that the bioecological system finds a balance in the argument of nature over nurture, which makes it different from other major theories which tend to choose sides in the argument. So let's see what Bronfenbrenner's bioecological system theory says. So he argues that all settings should be considered when trying to explain child development. The argument is often used showing a series of circles that resembles a target. The inner circles, or the bullseye on the target, is representative of the individual child. The next circle represents around the inner circle is the microsystem in which the child lives, such as their family members, home life, and those who are the child care provider. Then these influences will directly affect the children or the child most immediate environment, are considered to be the biggest influencers of the child's development. So he's saying that, you know, the most important factors that are involved in child's environment are the most inner circle. So if you keep the child in the most in the bullseye, and the first circle around the child are the family members and people around them who gives care and take care of them and all that. And that's very, these are the biggest influencer in the child's development. The second circle he talks about is that he said it's the mesosystem. A child's mesosystem includes the way people who exist inside the microsystem affect each other. So he said the mesosystem is something, not only how the child is influenced by these people. He is saying that it is also important how these people interact with one another. And that is the mesosystem that affects the microsystem. So I think it's important that people are in child, based on his theory, is that when we have a child present in a situation, and as we're dealing with the child, we also need to make sure that how we deal with one another is also affecting the child, that is inner circle that sits in the bullseye. So that's what he is saying. So for example, he talks about the third circle, which is known as the exosystem that might affect a child. This includes extended family, neighbors, social or legal service that might affect them, even if they do not affect them directly a factor into the child's everyday life. The final circle represents the bigger world around the child's or the children's or the child's macro system. This system makes up the society or the culture of the child. While children are not individually affected by these institutions, they do influence the child in various ways, such as through language, how they feel about others, and how and the way they express themselves to strangers. So now that you know the child is in that inner circle, and then the next circle to that is the microsystem, and the microsystem, the mesosystem, the mesosystem has the macrosystem, and they're all affecting the child in one way or another. So there's no way out of it. Maybe that's why we need to develop a better world that focuses our children and the next generation. Perhaps it makes so much sense. But again, his claim was about all things are to be considered. Then you have cognitive development theory. Now, this young man we're going to talk a lot about, John Piaget. Cognitive development theory, especially the Piaget's theory, which is type of cognitive development theory, is one of the most referenced theories in child development. He is being most referenced in child development. Piaget theory has and will continue to be explained throughout this course. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but I'm giving you other theories that are going around his work and the work of other people. However, as I mentioned that there are other theories, it's worth mentioning that the Piaget theory is not the only discourse existing within the broader theories of cognitive development. Lev Vygotsky also made significant contribution to cognitive development theory. Vygotsky differed from Piaget's theory because he placed greater importance on the interaction and relationships forged between children and their peers. and adults. Mostly, he believed that um, what children understand is fulfilled when these beliefs are scaffolded by their peers. So something that you constantly are constructing on each other. So he said these beliefs get stronger and stronger as a scaffolding process by the peers, parents, and the teachers. By scaffolding, Vygotsky means that the adults are supporting the children structurally while they developing internally. So Vygotsky also different from Piaget's theory because he believed that the children learn with communication and social interactions. And as a result, children are not the sole discoverers of their knowledge. Instead, what he's saying is, since the children are not the sole discoverer of their knowledge, he's saying they are active participants, perhaps partners in what they learn. Because of this, he focused heavily on language development in the context of cognitive development, because what children learn comes through language, verbal thinking, and verbal thought. So in conclusion, there are a number of different theories adopted by researchers and doctors who discuss theories development, who discuss child development. Each theory has its own merits. We're not, as you might have listened to all of these, and you might be saying to yourself, it kind of makes sense, So there are definitely merits in what these theories are about, and these pioneers who actually came up with these, and the approaches that make unique a coherent way to systematically examine the way humans grow and mature psychologically from infancy to adulthood. So this is what we have for this session. Basically the theories as well as the research in the child development. I hope you enjoyed the session. We will continue to move forward with the session number 3 on child development, module number 3. Thank you all for watching. Once again, my name is Nadeem Sikander. dr.nsikander@gmail.com is my email. If you have any questions, God bless you all. Thank you all very much once again. Have a wonderful, fantastic, amazing rest of the night. Thank you.